My husband believes his best friend's lies about me, tearing our marriage apart. When he finally learned the truth, it was already too late. I never thought our marriage would fall apart that fast, especially not without cheating, fighting, or some big dramatic scandal. We had a normal, warm relationship. Or so I thought. And then it crumbled in less than 3 months. It all started with Kyle. At the time, I had no idea that letting him into our home was basically signing the death certificate for our marriage. But here we are. Let me tell you how it went down. He'll just stay with us for a couple of weeks. 3, max. Just until he finds a job and a place. That's what my husband Ethan said the night Kyle showed up at our door, dragging a duffel bag the size of a small refrigerator. The kind of bag you pack when you're moving in, not crashing for the weekend. He walked in like he owned the place. Confident. Familiar. Like he was coming back to his territory, not entering our home. And of course, the smile. That classic Kyle grin, slightly crooked, half squint, perfectly rehearsed. Like a guy who knows exactly when the camera's on him. The kind of smile that supposedly melts hearts. Moms of girlfriends loved it. Bartenders gave him free shots. New bosses hired him on the spot. Total strangers trusted him for no reason. But every time I saw that smile, something clenched inside me. A tight little knot of dread I couldn't explain. Back then, my gut was screaming at me that this wouldn't end well. But what was I supposed to do? My name's Lauren. I live in San Diego and work as a project manager for a medical startup, which basically means I solve everyone else's problems before they explode, while living off free office coffee. My husband, Ethan, works in cybersecurity. He knows how to encrypt entire networks, but can't remember where he left his headphones. We're both in our early 30s. We've been married for 2 years. I thought we were solid. Not perfect, but real. We had our rituals, Friday night takeout, no talking before morning coffee, little forehead kisses in the hallway. We weren't in a rush for kids. The plan was, get settled first, then maybe think about babies. Except lately, I'd started pausing in front of baby stores, looking at tiny socks, wondering if maybe we were ready. I hadn't brought it up with Ethan yet. I wanted it to be a happy conversation, a light in your eyes kind of talk. But we never got there. Because then came Kyle. Kyle was Ethan's college buddy. The ride-or-die friend. The brother from another mother. They used to sneak onto rooftops, get kicked out of bars, almost got expelled once over a bar fight, and now they look back on all that like it's a highlight reel. Kyle is chaos personified. Loud, charming, always the center of attention. Ethan calls him family by choice. I call him something else. Not out loud. I never really liked Kyle. He's the kind of guy who walks into your house and acts like he owns it. He'll undermine you mid-conversation with a smug joke, then pretend it was all in good fun, like you just don't get his humor. He's not exactly hostile. Worse, he's polite, gracious, and dripping with quiet contempt for women like me. Women who like order. Women who don't play by his frat boy rules. Anyway, the call came on a Sunday afternoon. Kyle lost his job, Ethan told me. His startup shut down. He lost his place, his car, everything. He says he's got nowhere to go. I couldn't say no. Of course not. I didn't even bother asking who made the offer. Ethan's heart is bigger than his spine sometimes. Plus, Kyle once bailed him out of some serious mess in college, and Ethan's had a lifelong guilt complex ever since. I sighed. Couple weeks. 3 tops. I nodded. What was I supposed to say? Sorry, let your best friend sleep in his car? And just like that, Kyle moved in. Dumped his bag in the hallway like he was visiting relatives for Christmas. The first 2 days, he played the role perfectly. Did the dishes. Made coffee. Even brought us a bottle of wine and said, "For you, Lauren. Honestly, I wouldn't have stayed if you hadn't agreed. You're a saint." I almost believed him. Almost. But deep down I knew I hadn't let in a guest. I'd let in a wolf dressed as a charming unemployed guest. And then it started. First it was his stuff. It began to multiply like cockroaches. His jeans draped over the back of the couch. His sneakers parked right outside our bedroom. His charger plugged into my side of the bed. Leftover takeout containers started piling up in the fridge. Half eaten. Open. His beer bottles sat on the windowsill for days. He ate chips straight from the bag, crumbs everywhere, and guess who cleaned them up? Spoiler, not Kyle. Our coffee table became a shrine to his bad habits, pizza boxes, sticky sauces, napkins, all sitting on my books. My actual, physical books. Then he started walking around the house in a tank top and boxers. Yeah, just like that. No shame. No boundaries. He'd casually reach over my head to grab something from the cabinet, shirtless, sweaty, and entirely too close. He'd plop down next to me on the couch, so close I'd have to shift away like I was avoiding a slow-moving infection. Every night, he and Ethan turned our living room into a frat house. Dinner, then beer, sports, loud laughter, and endless retellings of that one time in New Mexico when they almost died fishing. I'd sit in the armchair with my laptop, technically present, but completely on the outside. A stranger in my own kitchen. A visitor in my own living room. And Kyle? He had jokes. Oh, I bet Lauren sleeps with a timer. In bed by 10:30, up by 6:45, like clockwork. You're so organized, Lauren. No wonder you're bored with us. Hey Ethan, does she let you out on weekends or do you need to submit a request form first? Ethan laughed. I didn't. And Kyle just looked at me, waiting. One night, I came home early. Ethan was running late. Kyle was in the kitchen, shirtless, again, drinking coffee like it was his house. He looked me up and down, squinted, and said, "You have no idea how lucky Ethan is. Or maybe you do." I didn't respond. Just walked past him, but I could feel his eyes glued to my back. He wasn't done. If I were him, I wouldn't leave the house at all. So cozy in here. And then quieter, almost to himself. Great company, killer view. I stopped. Turned. You trying to say something? He smiled and raised his hands. Relax, it's a compliment. You like compliments, right? His voice was soft, that fake velvet tone guys use when they're trying to sound charming while testing how much they can get away with. His eyes did the thing, full body scan with a hint of smirk. Then smooth as hell. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had met first. I think we could have had something. Don't you? I stared at him. That smug confidence. He really thought I'd bite. Like he was that irresistible. I said sharply, "Don't cross that line. Ever." He grinned. "Come on, no need to get worked up. Just thinking out loud. We're all friends here, right?" I didn't blink. "So, how much longer are we supposed to enjoy your company? Thinking of maybe honoring us with a departure date soon?" He just widened that grin. "Don't be like that, Lauren. You're so tense. It was just a conversation. We're adults." I didn't answer. I just walked out. But inside, I was boiling. Because he knew exactly what he was doing. And the worst part? He had no intention of leaving. After that kitchen exchange, I hoped he'd take the hint. Maybe a flicker of decency would finally surface. I'd drawn the line, clearly. I told him outright that I wanted him out of my house. What more could you possibly need? A functional adult would have packed that giant duffel he still had dumped in our hallway and left with whatever dignity he had left. But Kyle's not that guy. The next morning, he was humming in the kitchen like he was in a Disney musical. Whipping up an omelet using my eggs and my cheese, in nothing but gym shorts. No shirt. Just vibes. He winked as I reached into the cabinet for coffee. You know, mornings are better when you share them with someone. Sure, Kyle. That's exactly why I've always dreamed of sipping my coffee next to your bare chest in my kitchen. I said nothing. Just left. Because Kyle runs on nuclear logic, the more you ignore him, the brighter he glows. The next few days? Full psychological occupation mode. Every glance from him felt invasive. Every word like a tap on a nerve. And deep down I knew he wasn't done. He wasn't even close. He stopped making obvious jokes. Now it was all oops, didn't mean anything by it, just thinking out loud. Stuff like, "Oh, is that your lingerie drying in the laundry room? Cute. Didn't know you wore stuff like that. You look tired. Want a massage? I give great massages. When Ethan was around, Kyle was respectful, polite, the perfect houseguest. When Ethan wasn't, suggestive glances, muttered comments, accidental brushes. I started locking the bedroom door at night. Not because I was scared, just tired of feeling like I was under surveillance. Tired of pretending I didn't notice him coincidentally popping up wherever I happened to be, the bathroom, the porch, the damn pantry. One night, Ethan had a client dinner. I was finally alone, sort of. Kyle poked his head into my room. No knock. No warning. Just his face in the doorway like a horror movie jump scare. Hey, feel like playing chess? Or truth or dare? I turned slowly and said, without raising my voice, try walking into my room without knocking again, and the only door you'll see is the front one. He laughed. A real belly-deep laugh like I just cracked the world's best joke. Then he disappeared. No apology. Of course not. I started getting paranoid. Hiding my phone. Double-checking locks. Acting like a guest in my own house, with a very short-term lease. Sometimes I'd even catch myself wondering if he was somehow reading my messages. Which was nuts. I mean, probably. Hopefully. Right? The worst part was, I kept hoping he'd finally snap. Do something obviously unacceptable. Something I could point to and say, see? Proof. Not just bad vibes or Lauren's overreacting, or some tension between my wife and my friend. No. Concrete, undeniable proof. So Ethan could finally see it. That this wasn't a personality clash. That this wasn't me being territorial or jealous or too sensitive. But Kyle wasn't stupid. He never crossed a line, not all at once. He just kept rubbing it away, millimeter by millimeter. Like he had a psychological eraser and zero shame. Meanwhile, every night he and Ethan were on a nostalgia high. Drinking beer. Grilling burgers. Playing video games. Hollering about sports like they were 17 again. I understood maybe one word in 10, but every few minutes it was, "Dude, did you see that?" One night they even had a full-on game night. Without me. I walked into the kitchen to grab water and found them arguing about some dumb card game. Kyle barely glanced up and said, "Don't take it personally, Lauren. We just needed some guy time." Guy time. Right. Because the only thing standing in the way of their epic bromance was me, some uptight buzzkill wife who doesn't laugh at jokes like, "I wouldn't play poker with you, Lauren, you're too easy to read." For Ethan, it was all great. At one point, he actually said to me, "You know, I'm glad Kyle's here. He kind of brings back that feeling of normal life. Youth, even. We work so much, it's nice to feel like it used to." Used to. As in, before me. Well, that's just lovely. As for me, I was pacing the house like a caged animal. Kyle watching. Kyle whispering. Kyle accidentally brushing my hand when he passed by. And yet, he'd joke with Ethan, help fix the car, even wash dishes after dinner. With music playing. Loud. Dancing like he was auditioning for a sitcom. I'd sit there with my laptop, trying to focus on work while listening to my husband laugh at the jokes of a man who had just offered me a relaxing massage. Shirtless. That was the game. For Ethan, it was summer. For me, it was psychological warfare served with coffee and unwanted attention. And then came the moment I couldn't come back from. I got home early one day, staff meeting got cancelled. All I wanted was a hot shower and clean clothes. Kyle's car wasn't outside, the house was quiet. Perfect. I went upstairs, into the bathroom, undressed, and stepped into the shower. 10 minutes later, with water running through my hair, I heard it. A creak. The door. Quiet. Deliberate. Someone was inside. I froze. How the hell had I not locked the door? My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear anything else. Then, his voice. "Oh, didn't know you were in here. Although, gotta say, it's quite the view." He said it calmly. Evenly. Like he wasn't invading someone's privacy. Like it was some harmless compliment. I didn't scream. I didn't lose it. I turned off the water, wrapped myself in a towel, and said through my teeth, "Get out. Now." He was standing in the doorway. Shirtless. Towel slung over one shoulder. like he was heading in for a shower. With that same smug smirk. Okay. Didn't know you were such a wild one. Chill, Lauren. We're all friends here, right? He didn't leave right away. He stepped back slowly, 3 paces, his eyes never leaving my body. I stood there. Wet hair. Shaking hands. Towel gripped like armor. And I realized I wasn't safe anymore. Not in the shower. Not in my room. Not in this house. And not with a husband who was probably in the living room laughing at some stupid joke Kyle told an hour ago. When I came out, Kyle was gone. Vanished. Ethan got home later, kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened. How was your day? I didn't answer. Just walked past him and shut the bedroom door. You know what's terrifying? I still didn't want to tell Ethan. Because I knew what it would mean. This wasn't a little spat or miscommunication. This was a line in the sand. A full fracture. A choice. Either him, or me. But after what happened in the shower? It wasn't a question of if I'd tell. The only question left was how long can I survive like this before I break? Answer, not one more day. I told Ethan the next morning. Not because it was the right thing to do. Because I couldn't keep going. Not another morning in my own kitchen, frying eggs while looking over my shoulder every 3 seconds. Ethan had just rolled out of bed. He was sitting at the table, scrolling through the news, still half asleep. Kyle, thankfully, was out for a run, which, judging by the state of his beer gut, probably started and ended at the soda machine around the corner. I didn't prep a speech. I just turned to Ethan and said, I want Kyle gone. Today. No discussion. He looked up from his phone, confused, like I just asked him to kick a stray cat into a thunderstorm. Why? Because I don't feel safe in my own home anymore. That got his attention. He sat up straighter. What happened? Can you explain? I took a breath. A deep one. The kind you take so you don't choke on your own panic. He flirts with me. Constantly. Makes comments. Drops hints. Walks in when I'm changing. Yesterday, he came into the bathroom while I was in the shower. Silence. Ethan just stared at me, brow furrowed. Are you sure? Maybe he just... I held up my hand. No, maybe. I'm not paranoid, Ethan. He's doing it on purpose. He's testing limits. And I think he enjoys watching me squirm. Ethan stood up and started pacing the kitchen. Look, Kyle can be a jerk. I'll admit that. Sometimes he goes too far. But he wouldn't. He did, I cut in. I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm asking you to look at me. Really look at me. And see that I cannot live with him another day. He didn't answer right away. Just stood there. Long pause. Then finally. I'll talk to him. Great. He'll talk to him. Like I just complained about loud music from the neighbor. I sat down. My legs were shaking. Ethan, if you don't kick him out, I'll leave. Today. I'll grab my laptop, a bag, and check into a hotel. Because I'm not spending another night under the same roof as that man. That finally landed. He sighed, muttered shit, and walked out into the hallway. A minute later, he came back, with Kyle. Kyle looked fresh. Too fresh. Like he hadn't just been jogging, but rather exfoliating. He strolled in like he'd just been summoned to a PTA meeting. Casual. Polite. Curious. What's going on? He asked, giving us both that mild practiced smile. Ethan started. Kyle, listen. Lauren told me you've crossed some lines. She's uncomfortable. You walked in on her in the shower. You? Kyle's eyebrows shot up. Smile gone. He took 2 steps forward. Wait. What? She's saying what? That I came on to her. I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just looked him dead in the eyes. No emotion. Because emotions, right then, were a luxury. Kyle turned to Ethan and laughed, loud, performative, defensive. Seriously? Bro, I walked in by accident. I didn't know she was in there. It was a second. I left immediately. The door was open. She must not have locked it. And now she's painting me like some creep. Then he turned back to me, and for just a fraction of a second, there it was. That look. Cold. Predatory. Gone in a blink, replaced by a thin smirk. You never liked me. I knew it'd boil over eventually. I just didn't think you'd go this full drama mode. But hey, if it makes you feel better, sure. Ethan stood between us, eyes darting back and forth. He didn't know who to believe. And that hurt more than anything. Not Kyle's lies. Not the fake innocence. But the fact that my own husband didn't instantly say, I believe you. He hesitated. And that hesitation was a knife. You're saying Lauren made this all up? Ethan finally asked, voice tight. Kyle jumped at the lifeline. I'm not saying that. Maybe she misunderstood. Or wanted attention. Or, I don't know, maybe she's jealous of how close we are. She's always been a little tense. That's when I stood up. Out. Pack your things. Leave. Kyle straightened. Smirked again. But it didn't reach his eyes. Got it. Loud and clear. You're kicking out your best friend because your wife suddenly decided to play the victim. Cool. I won't stand in the way of true love. He gave us both one last long look, cold, unreadable. I'll pack. He turned and headed upstairs. Slow steps. Heavy, deliberate. I stood there, frozen, listening. The sound of a suitcase unzipping. Something thudding onto the floor. The clatter of shoes. Angry muttering. Theatrical sighs. All loud enough for us to hear downstairs. Just in case we forgot he was the wronged one. Ethan said nothing. He stood by the window, like he wished he could slip through the glass and vanish. 20 minutes later, Kyle came down. Gigantic duffel over one shoulder. Backpack strapped on. Grocery bag in hand. He looked like he was fleeing the country, not just leaving our guest room. He made a big show of huffing like someone who'd just been evicted at gunpoint, robbed of dignity and clean socks. At the door, he turned back. Looked right at me. And in the quietest, coldest voice, said, You made a big mistake, Lauren. You just don't know it yet. But you will. And then he slammed the door, just loud enough to make a point. I stood there, hand resting on the closed door. It wasn't until a few seconds later that I noticed my hands were shaking. Silence settled. The kind that lets you hear every little thing. The hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock, the breathing of the man sitting at the kitchen table, trying very hard not to look at you. Ethan still hadn't moved. Then he exhaled long and heavy, and finally said, Lauren, can you tell me everything? From the beginning. It took me a moment to answer. I had to dig through the mental mess, find the start of the thread, and pull it straight. It started small. Comments. Looks. The kind of jokes that technically pass as harmless, but make you want to scrub your skin raw in the shower. Then it got worse. He kept accidentally showing up whenever I was alone. One time he came into my room without knocking. Then the shower. Ethan winced. Like the words physically hurt. That only happened once. The shower? Yes. But the flirting, the hints, that was constant. Practically every day. I started locking my door at night. He walked around half naked all the time, acted like it was his house. But in front of you? Perfect friend. Always helpful. Always charming. He nodded slowly. Then after a pause, asked, Why didn't you tell me sooner? There it was. The question I knew was coming. Not because it was unfair, but because it always comes with subtext. If it was really that serious, why did you keep it to yourself? I looked him in the eye. Because I didn't want to wreck your friendship. Because I thought maybe he'd pick up on the signs and just leave. Because I kept hoping it wouldn't get worse. And if I'm being completely honest, I was scared you wouldn't believe me. He looked away. You really thought I'd believe him over you? You're still not sure who to believe, are you? He didn't answer. Didn't have to. The silence said everything. I heard the clock ticking again. 5 seconds. 10. He's like a brother to me, Ethan said finally, almost whispering. We've been through a lot together. I've never seen him like this. And me? You see me every day. You live with me. Sleep next to me. And still you're unsure. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, head in his hands. Quiet. I didn't expect this. Not from him. Not from you. I didn't realize you were going through all of this. I didn't want you to feel caught in the middle. But guess what? You already are. He's gone, Ethan. But he left you something behind. A choice. And you didn't choose me. You chose doubt. He lifted his head slowly, hesitated, and then asked, "Are you sure it wasn't just? Maybe he was just being awkward? Or joking around? Some people flirt without meaning anything. Maybe you took it a bit more seriously than he intended." It wasn't cruel. It wasn't aggressive. It was a question. A careful, cautious question. And it hit like a slap. He didn't believe me. Or worse, he did, but didn't want to. And that's not better. It's just cleaner. I sat up straighter. Calm. Too calm. You really want to sit here and discuss whether I misinterpreted a grown man walking into the bathroom while I was naked in the shower? Because I didn't. It wasn't a second. He stood there. Stared. Ethan leaned back in his chair and shut his eyes. Silence again. Long. Heavy. But not the kind that brings peace. I got up and went to the bedroom. For the first time in 3 years, I locked the door behind me. From my husband. 3 days passed. We lived side by side. But not together. Same house. Different planets. We only spoke when necessary. We're out of salt. Did you pay the water bill? Have you seen my charger? He came home late. Left early. At breakfast, he stared into his coffee like it might offer him some kind of cosmic answer. I didn't ask where he'd been. I didn't want to know. I wasn't the wife who demanded explanations anymore. I was the wife who waited. Not for affection. For clarity. And clarity never came. He barely touched me. Not that he'd ever been overly affectionate, but now? Nothing. Even casual contact, brushing past each other, reaching for the same drawer, was carefully avoided. Like I was radioactive. Or contagious. On the 4th night, he came home later than usual. I was sitting in the kitchen, motionless. Only the light above the sink was on. I wasn't watching the clock. Wasn't watching the door. I just knew he'd walk in soon, and everything would shift. One way or the other. But not back. The door slammed. I didn't move. He walked in, still wearing his jacket. Just stood there in the doorway, staring at me. His face was blank. Eyes hollow. Only his mouth was tight, like he was holding back words that were trying to escape. Did you talk to him? I asked, calmly. Like I was asking if he remembered to grab milk. Yes. Just that. No build-up. No hesitation. The word cut the air like a knife. What did he say? I stayed calm. He said, you came on to him. That he didn't expect it. That he pulled away and felt uncomfortable. That you must be angry now because he rejected you. I stood up. Slowly. Deliberately. Looked him straight in the eyes. And you believed him. He sighed, took off his jacket, tossed it over the back of a chair. He said you looked at him a certain way. That you left the bathroom door open. That he held back because you're my wife. That he didn't want to hurt our marriage. He already did, Ethan. Are you even listening to yourself? He walked in on me in the shower. He said disgusting things. He wandered around half-naked making comments that made my skin crawl. Maybe he liked you. And maybe, you knew that. Maybe it felt good. I stepped back. Excuse me. You didn't say anything. 4 weeks. Not a word. And now you say it was this nightmare? Do you see how that looks? I moved closer. Ethan, he hunted me. Right under your nose. And you're standing here asking if I was encouraging it. I'm just trying to understand what really happened. You want the truth? Fine. Here it is. He's a liar. A manipulator. He knew you'd believe him. Because you always have. Without question. He used that. And you gave him the key, to the house, to you, to me. Ethan's head jerked up, his voice rising. Why? Tell me why Kyle would even do that? Why make something like this up? What does he get out of it? I looked at his face, exhausted, confused, still holding on to that last piece of childhood trust, that belief that some people are just good. And I said, because he can't stand it when someone else has what he doesn't. Because he's always envied you, your career, your stability, your relationship with me. Because I shut him down, and his ego couldn't take it. Because he wanted to punish me. And while he was at it, punish you too, for having something he never will. He knew exactly where to strike. Ethan didn't answer. Just turned away and sank into a chair like someone had flipped a switch and shut him down from the inside. I stood there. My hands were shaking. I wanted him to get up. To come closer. To say, I believe you. I'm with you. But he didn't. He just sat there with his head in his hands. And I stood, feeling that weight in my chest grow heavier. He wasn't defending Kyle anymore. But he wasn't defending me either. He was silent. And somehow, that silence hurt worse than all the rest. It was like he disappeared inward, into a place where only Kyle had ever been allowed. A place where the best friend, the chosen brother, still lived in shining colors. And now Ethan had to choose, destroy that picture, or leave a fracture inside me. I'm not asking you to react right now, Ethan. My voice came out quieter than I expected. I know how hard this is. To believe that someone you grew up with isn't who you thought they were. I really do. He looked up at me. And in his eyes? Pain, confusion, and fear. The kind of fear that comes from realizing you might have been blind for a very long time. I don't know how to process this, he whispered. It's Kyle. Yes. Kyle, I said softly. Your friend turned out to be a creep. You were wrong. You've probably been wrong for years. And now? Now, if you want to believe me, you'll have to break that illusion. Not destroy him. Destroy the version of him that lived in your head. And yeah, I know that hurts. He stared at me for a long time, then said, low and broken, but why did you wait? Why didn't you tell me right away? Again. That question again. Like he can't move past it. Like this is his anchor. And I get it. I do. But still, it hurt. How do you answer that again, and make it mean something this time? I took a breath. Because I didn't want to break your illusion. Because you always said, Kyle's like a brother. Because I didn't want to make you choose. Because I knew, if it came to that, the cost would be too high for you. He looked away. And in that moment, I realized. I was still hoping. That he'd come back. That he'd think. That he'd choose. I sat down next to him. Didn't touch him. I'm not asking to win anything, Ethan. I just need the truth. I need to know that you hear me. That you believe me. That I'm not alone in this. He didn't answer. Just gave a small nod. Barely there. Unsteady. And I knew, he was fighting. Not with me. With himself. With the wreckage in his mind. And with the pieces of it that were starting to fall into everything else. I wanted to hug him. God, I wanted to. But I didn't. Because even though he was sitting next to me, he wasn't with me. When I went to the bedroom, he stayed in the kitchen. I didn't slam the door. Didn't even close it fully. I left it cracked, just a little. Let him decide. That night, he didn't come in. And that was the first time I cried. He stayed. One night. Then another. We didn't fight. We didn't really talk either. Everything just dulled. The house felt padded, like someone had wrapped it in cotton. He'd walk into the kitchen, grab a cup of coffee, look right past me. And I'd look at him like someone who still technically lived with me, but wasn't here anymore. On the third night, he came home late again. Said he was at work, even though I knew his shift had ended hours earlier. I didn't ask. Didn't push. I just set a mug down in front of him. He stared at it for a long time. Then finally said, I need a little time. Just to think. I'm gonna take a few things and stay with Tom. You don't know him, we used to work together. He offered. I didn't say anything. Not yes, not no. Just nodded. Inside? Nothing. Not anger. Not pain. Just silence. He left about an hour later. No suitcase. Just a bag. Folded his clothes neatly. No scene. No goodbye hug. Just paused at the door and said, "This isn't forever. I just need to clear my head." I nodded again. He didn't kiss me goodbye. The door closed behind him, and I sat down on the couch and realized he didn't leave to clear his head. He left to avoid making a choice. It's been over a month. I thought it would get easier. Spoiler, it didn't. It just got quieter. The silence in the house didn't feel peaceful. It felt heavy. At first, I waited. I really thought he'd show up. That he'd get it. That he'd want to talk, to explain, to ask if I was okay. I mean, this was a marriage, right? A life. We had plans. Rituals. Inside jokes no one else would understand. Our nights together. His hand on my back as I fell asleep. Arguments at midnight about dumb things. Laughter. Closeness. Trust. You don't just lose all that in one night, right? And then I saw the photo. A coworker sent it. No malice, just a screenshot from someone's Instagram story. Party at Josh's place. There they were. Kyle. And Ethan. Side by side. Smiling. Like nothing ever happened. I don't even remember putting my phone down. Just remember how the air vanished from the room. Like someone had taken me, flipped me inside out, and left the hollow shell behind. He didn't just leave. He stayed, with him. So everything I said? Meant nothing. He didn't just hesitate. He chose. Just, not me. And that night, for the first time, I realized. I wasn't waiting anymore. I didn't want revenge. Didn't want a fight. Didn't need drama. I just couldn't live in the waiting anymore. I sat at the kitchen table. It was so quiet it felt violent. I picked up my phone. Opened his contact. Pressed record voice message. "You know, I really thought you'd come back. Not out of guilt. Because you're someone who thinks. Someone who feels. But maybe I was wrong. You left to think, Ethan. And now you've thought. And you chose to stay where it's easy. With him. The one who lied. Who sabotaged. And you still chose him. As for me, I'm not waiting anymore. Not because I hate you. But because I just don't believe you anymore." I stared at the screen. And then I hit delete. And weirdly, that helped. For the first time in a long time. I got up and did the dishes. Turned on some music. Let the kettle boil. And for a second, just a tiny flicker of a second, it felt like the house was mine again. He left. But I stayed. And I'm going to be okay. 3 months passed. I no longer left the door cracked open. I didn't listen for footsteps on the stairs. I wasn't waiting anymore. I just lived. Or tried to. Mornings were for coffee. Work. Evenings were filled with silence, sometimes so loud it hurt. Ethan and I were officially divorced. It came in the form of a cold, polite email from his lawyer. No drama. No emotion. Just a PDF attachment, like a utility bill. I signed the papers with a steady hand, and then spent the next 24 hours lying in bed, motionless. No tears. No energy. Just empty. On the outside, I was functioning. I went to work. I smiled. I discussed deadlines and deliverables. Nobody at the office asked questions. Just looks. Carefully polite, perfectly measured looks. Because the rumors, of course, had made their rounds. At first among mutual friends. Then wider. Kyle's version spread like wildfire, eagerly accepted, passed along with knowing nods. According to him, I was the wife who almost cheated with her husband's best friend. Got rejected. And decided to lie about it out of spite. Out of pride. Out of wounded ego. No one said it to my face. But I felt it. In every awkward smile. In every "Hey, how are you?" In every glance that lingered 1 second too long. Ethan's mother called once. Her voice was tired. "Lauren, We just didn't expect this from you. You were part of the family. One of his old friends, Mark, the one we once road tripped with to Yellowstone, sent me a message. Not trying to take sides. But he really loved you. A lot. I'm sorry things turned out this way. Even my manager, during a meeting one day, said, without looking up, next time, be more mindful. Personal reputation is part of the company's brand too. I nodded, then went to the bathroom and threw up. Not from shame. From rage. From helplessness. From disgust. The silence was its own kind of violence. Because no one wanted the truth. Kyle's story, the charming guy burned by a vindictive woman, was easy to digest. Mine? No one asked for it. So when I got a message from Mel, I was surprised. Hey. Sorry for the sudden text. I really need to talk. In person. It's about a conversation. It's important. We weren't close. But we'd been friendly. She worked with Ethan, came over sometimes back when Ethan and Lauren was still a thing. She was more his person than mine, but she'd always been kind to me. Respectful. I replied. Okay. When and where? We met at a tiny cafe near my place. Mel looked tense. She sat across from me, didn't order anything. Bag in her lap. Hands clenched. Thanks for coming, she whispered. I've been sitting with this for a while. I didn't say anything. Just watched her. She continued. What I brought. It matters. And you need to hear it. She opened her bag. Pulled out a phone, earbuds, and a small envelope with a couple of printed photos. It was a week ago. I was at this cafe and saw Kyle with some guy. Didn't recognize him at first. He had a cap and hoodie on. But then, he started talking. She swallowed hard. They were drunk. Like, sloppy drunk. Loud, giggly, teenage boy energy. And then I heard your name. I couldn't help it, I started listening. And I hit record. Instinct, I guess. I didn't even know why. But I figured it out soon enough. She handed me the earbuds. Pressed play. Cafe sounds. Clinking plates. Chairs moving. Then Kyle's voice. Slurred, smug, loud. Lauren. Ugh, what a piece of work, huh? Acting all pure, all above it. Like she's too good for anything. Her house is spotless, her life so neat, and I show up like bam, dirty boots and charm. So I made her an offer. Told her I could spice things up for her boring little life. She turns me down like she's the damn Pope's niece. Kicks me out like I'm trash. Seriously. Pause. Glasses clink. So fine. She wanted to be cold? Ice queen? Cool. She tried to ruin the bro code. Turned Ethan against me. I gave her what she asked for. Told him what he needed to hear. And that idiot? He bought every word. Didn't even ask me anything. My old pal. My brother. Now he walks around like someone died. Whatever. He needed a wake-up call. And her? She had it coming. Trying to act all high and mighty. I just wanted a little fun. She made it war. So I made sure she'd pay for it. Pause. A second voice chuckling. Wait, so you made it all up? Duh. What, you wouldn't? She humiliated me. I evened the score. Pretty slick, right? Now she's alone. And Ethan? Thinks his wife's a whore. Fair trade. The audio stopped. I sat there, frozen. Earbuds in hand. Heart pounding in my throat. Mel gently placed 2 photos beside the phone. A little blurry, but clear enough, Kyle in that same hoodie, smirking over a beer. Another one of him miming a woman's curves with his hands. His friend laughing. Thank you, I whispered. She nodded. Her eyes were kind. Steady. Then she said quietly. What he did wasn't just a lie. It was disgusting. I didn't believe it at first. But back then, everyone was on his side. You stayed silent. He didn't. He gave people an explanation. A version. You disappeared. And people filled in the blanks. I barely said it out loud. I didn't have anything to explain. I didn't betray anyone. She nodded. That's why I came. They talked about you, you know? Judged you. Even people who used to defend you. I heard someone say, well, she brought it on herself. Another said, Ethan went easy on her. I looked up, let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, I figured. Nice to have it confirmed. Weird thing is, it hurts. But somehow it helps. Now I know. Mel looked tired. Sad. I came because you deserve the truth. And because if someone trashed my name like that, I'd want someone, anyone, to speak up. Even once. Thank you, Mel, I said again. Thank you for not staying silent. If you ever need me to confirm it was him, I will. I don't know what else I can do. But you're not alone, Lauren. I put the photos in my bag. Slipped the phone in after them. She left. And I just sat there, holding my bag. For the first time in weeks. I had power. Not the kind you get from revenge. The kind that comes from knowing. From owning the truth. And now? Now I got to decide what to do with it. I didn't write some big dramatic letter. No accusations. No crying. No performance. I just sent a short message. To the people who mattered. Ethan's parents. My parents. His friends. My friends. The ones who called to scold me. The ones who judged. And to Ethan. There was a file attached. The audio. 2 photos. That's it. No explanation. No commentary. Let them listen. Let them look. Let them figure it out for themselves. I didn't wait for a response. Didn't expect one. I hit send, and made myself some tea. The first reply came 20 minutes later. A friend. Lauren, I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry. I really believed that story. I'm in shock. Then came the calls. Apologies. Excuses. Regret. People saying, we didn't know. You should have said something. You seemed so calm, we thought. And then, something I didn't expect. A mutual friend messaged me, blunt and simple. Ethan and Kyle got into a fight. Bad. Blood. Real bad. A few days later Jared, one of the only mutual friends I still respected, called me. I punched Kyle, Lauren. Told him he was scum. He didn't apologize. Just wiped his mouth and smirked. You should have seen his face. I won't forget it. Then he added. Nick fired him. No severance. Bad reference. Kyle had talked up that job for months. Said it was his fresh start. Now? Gone. I'd heard Kyle brag about that job. How it was finally his time. Prestigious firm, great salary, flexible hours. Like the universe was finally doing him a favor. Well, now the favor was revoked. He became a pariah. Blocked by the same people who once defended him. No invites. No texts. No one picking up his calls. Last I heard, he moved to a different city. Looking for a job. Looking for something. Ethan's mother called me one evening. There was silence on the line at first. Then she said, soft and raw, Lauren, I don't know how to make this right. We were all blind. I judged you. Harshly. I'm so sorry. Ethan, he's broken. Then, even quieter. I still hope, maybe you too, if you can forgive him. 3 days later, Ethan showed up at my door. He looked exhausted. Gray at the temples, something that hadn't been there before. His eyes were full of hurt. And guilt. And hope. Can I come in? He asked. I let him. We sat. Quiet. He held a mug of tea like it was the only thing keeping him tethered. Lauren, he said, voice rough. I'm sorry. More than I know how to say. I was a fool. I failed you. I betrayed you. I'm not here with excuses. But if there's even the tiniest chance, if you could give me one more chance, I'd do anything to fix this. To fix us. I looked at him. In his eyes, uncertainty. And something very close to real remorse. You didn't just make a mistake, Ethan. You let me drown. You let me carry all of it alone. You chose to believe the version of me that was easier to hate, because facing who Kyle really was would have cost you more. His head dropped. His lips trembled. I know. And I'll live with that. But if there's even 1%. I took a breath. Checked in with myself. No, Ethan. There isn't. I forgave you. But the trust? It's gone. It died. I lived in hell. And you left me there. Thank you for coming. But I'm not the woman you knew anymore. I'm okay. I have work. I have people in my life. I have my life. And I'm moving forward. Without you. He nodded. Slowly. Didn't argue. Just stood up. And left. The door closed quietly behind him. For good. Time passed. I moved to a new apartment. Not because there were too many memories. But because I wanted blank walls. Rooms where no one ever sat in silence or walked away mid-conversation. I kept only the things that didn't lie. Books. Playlists I actually liked. And people I could laugh and sit in silence with, comfortably. Work took off. I got promoted. New project, complicated, but exciting. My team? Felt like they breathed in sync. I felt like I was building something again. This time, with solid ground under my feet. Weekends were for brunches, friends, slow evenings. There's someone who's been showing up more often. No rush. I've learned not to run toward anything anymore. Sometimes, walking down the street, I catch myself smiling. Not because someone's watching. Not because I should. But because, inside, there's peace. Not perfect. Not without scars. But mine. I didn't scream. Didn't seek revenge. Didn't beg. I just stayed me. And I made it. What do you think? Did I make the right choice walking away from Ethan? Let me know in the comments. And if stories like this resonate with you, subscribe. There's more to come.